The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by EdgeBoost. Paying for better. Sign up today. EdgeBoost.bet code SGPN to get a $25 deposit bonus. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday night, May 31st, around 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the preview of the round of 16 in the French Open. We're going to break down those matches in a little bit. For that, though, I want to recap what happened in the round of 32, and we'll get into the recap of the lock and dog picks as well. Starting off with the lock and dog picks, overall a pretty good episode for us, not great. I feel like for the actual recap, they'll have in a second, we got a lot of things right, but unfortunately we did pick a play that ended up losing for the lock. Had Kashanov money line at minus 138. I still love the read attached to it. We thought it was going to be a physical match, thought it'd be a long match, and we dared injure Tommy Paul to outlast Kashanov in what was going to be a marathon. It went 5 sets, and injured Tommy Paul did outlast Kashanov, and he won. Rough loss there for Kashanov. Really came down to that third set breaker, which Kashanov choked. He had 2 separate set points. One of them was on his own serve, and he ended up losing both of those as he ended up losing the set. Won the fourth, went down immediately in the fifth, and it was all she wrote. So Kashanov had a pretty golden opportunity to beat an injured Tommy Paul in a 5-set marathon, and he fell apart in the 5th set. So either way, did not work out there, picked up a loss. For the dog, though, nice, easy win. We had Papirin to win the first set and the match at plus 130. Never in doubt, beat Borges in straight sets. Couple competitive tiebreaks, though. Papirin did find a way to get the job done after choking away a break lead twice in the second set. And then he held on to win the breaker, 13-11 in that breaker. Then he also won the third set in a breaker. So once again, a decent episode for us. I'm annoyed that Kashanov ruined the actual sweep for us because we did pick a marathon match. Thought that Paul's body would deteriorate over the course of the matchup, and it did, but apparently not enough because Kashanov still found a way to blow the match. So picked up a split there. Look for a sweep here in the round 16. Before we get into the, I'd say, greater recap of the round of 32, a reminder though that we do have new content on the SGPN network because the SGP guys are going to be ripping packs live on air next Monday night. They'll be breaking a case of Panini Prisms with dabs, and you can get 10% off your favorite team with promo code SGPN. Go to sportsgambling.com/break to get in on the action. So getting into the bigger recap there of the round of 32. Overall, once again, a pretty entertaining round. You saw a decent amount of marathons, and I felt like it kind of blended with the blowouts because the Saturday card was quite anticlimactic. But getting into the actual recap, though, of the matches on Friday, a lot of really good content. I saw Musetti beat Navone in 4. We called that to a T, got that one right. Paul beat Kashanov in a 5-set marathon. Papirin beat Borges in straight sets. Thought Hallis was alive against Rune. We thought Rune would win in 4 or 5. He did win in 5. Altmaier ended up beating Medjedovic in 4. So that was definitely a matchup that was kind of interesting early, but then it felt like Medjedovic was always a step behind over the course of the matchup, as Altmaier got the job done there in 4. Shelton beat Gigante handily in straight sets. So Gigante beat Tsitsipas, made a good run. Then Shelton, off of the walkover against Gaston, looked great. He beat him in straight sets. Tiafoe beat Korda, and we did like the under in that one that got there, as Tiafoe did win in straight sets. And Alcaraz beat the Zoomer, but did drop a set. He was actually down a break in the 4th set as well. Then remembered, I'm Alcaraz, and he just immediately blew out the Zoomer again. But either way, nice job by the Zoomer for making it competitive when it looked like it was going to be a rout, as Alcaraz won the first 2 sets 6-1, 6-3. But Zoomer fought, won a set, was up a break in the 4th, and then Alcaraz flipped the switch again and ended up winning in 4. Still a pretty fun overall card on Friday. You only had 3 matches ended in straight sets, a couple of 5-setters in there, and it was definitely full of drama, which was nice to see. For the matchups on Saturday, not so much. You had a crazy match early in the day as you had Griekspoor beating Quinn as he was down 2-1, came back and won in 5. So nice job by Griekspoor to survive the initial adversity and to get the job done there in 5. Then you had a bunch of absolute chalk. So you had Sinner beating Leheshka, only dropping 3 games in the entire match. Damn, Leheshka got killed. A 6-0, 6-1, 6-2. Yeah, it took about an hour and 30. Sinner was just on another level, and you ended up seeing Leheshka get destroyed. So nice win there for Sinner. Saw Rublev win the walkover, as Fees ended up suffering a stress fracture in his back. He'll be out for, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks. So he's probably going to miss Wimbledon. We'll see. But Fees is injured pretty severely and he might end up missing the grass season entirely. So keep an eye out for that. But Fees is injured again, and we'll see if he ends up coming back for Wimbledon. My guess would be no. Zverev beat Kaboli in 3 sets. There was a breaker in there, but Zverev looked pretty comfortable over the course of the matchup. Was wrong about Fonseca. Thought he'd give Draper a series run for his money. He got absolutely curb stomped. Won 8 games the entire match. Draper killed him. It was Indian Wells all over again. And Draper continues to look very solid. Fonseca, though, keeps showing flashes of brilliance, and then it feels like he hits a wall in almost every event that he's in. And it feels like at the end of the day, Draper is definitely a worthy top 5 guy. He's great on clay, and we've seen that all year. Nice job by him, though, for winning in straight sets. Norrie beat Fernley in a match of 2 Brits that nobody cared about, and he ended up winning in straight sets. Saw Bublik beat Rocha in straight sets. Good for Bublik to not get broken in the entire match. You never thought you'd probably be able to say that Bublik was in the round of 16 in the French Open, but here we are. Bublik's kind of had a clay season for him, and you're looking at Djokovic, who destroyed Misolic. No shock there. We know that Misolic was, I don't want to say lucky to get here, but as a qualifier, making it into the 3rd round, a good effort. Joker killed him. No surprise there, as he only dropped 9 games over the course of the entire match. So overall, once again, a pretty balanced, I'd say, 3rd round, where you're looking at a spot where you saw a couple of competitive wars, saw a couple of straightforward wins, and you saw even a walkover in there. So it kind of had all of everything. But either way, point is a pretty fun round as a whole. Time to move on into the round of 16. Also, briefly mentioning the women's side of things. Nothing too shocking per se. I feel like it was pretty much chalk. Looking at the actual results here, you had no drama at all on Friday. Every single match ended in straight sets. Every single one of them. So that was definitely underwhelming, to say the least, and the favorites won basically all of them. Ostapenko got buried by Rybakina, so that feels pretty good that we've Swiatek to win the event, and now she doesn't have to face off against Ostapenko. That's pretty cool. But the point is, you had straight sets entirely on Friday, and then on Saturday, you saw Badoza lose to Kasatkina, pretty much chalk besides that, and then you had a couple of marathons with Boyson, who ended up winning 7-5 in the 3rd. You saw Keys come back against Kennan. Kennan had, I think it was 3 match points, and then immediately did not convert, then got broken the game after, and then lost. So that was kind of a heartbreaker there for Kennan. Besides that, though, Pegula came back from a set down against Vondrousova. So once again, not too much drama on the women's side. Felt very, very chalky, and we'll see what happens in the round of 16 moving forward. Anyway, time to move on into the round of 16. On the men's side, before we get into that, the reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is EdgeBoost. They're the first ever banking for bettors, ensuring that all your gambling transactions are approved. No use fees, no minimums. Cash records as well. 100% approval. From the deposit, sign up today. EdgeBoost.pepper code SGPN. Deposit $25. Edge match deposit. EdgeBoost.pepper code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Fantasy because they are going along to May Plus. Their extender bonus. Hop in game 1. The longer the series goes, the bigger the bonus gets. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to get a special pick and a first time visit offer up to $1K in bonus cash on Fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished recapping the last round. Time to move on into the round of 16. Starting off with the matches taking place on Sunday. First match going to be between Paul and Papiron, which should be interesting because we know Paul is battling an injury to his abdomen, but he was able to survive and advance in 5-set marathons against Fuchsovics and Kashanov. Papiron, though, has been absolutely coasting. He has not dropped a set yet. Paul, though, has dropped at least 1 set in every single match. And once again, he's had back-to-back 5-setters. Now, Paul's still favored in this one, despite the injury. He's about minus 170. You have Pyron at around plus 150 for the spread, minus 2.5 for Paul, plus 2.5 for Pyron. The over-unders at 40.5. For the set spread, you have Paul minus 1.5 sets at plus 117. But Pyron plus 1.5 sets is a minus 150. The over 3.5 sets is minus 240, by the way. So you're looking at what should be another close battle. Now, they faced off multiple times in the past, and Paul has gotten the better of Pyron recently, but they've been very close. Faced off in 2019 in Montreal, Paul won in 3. Faced off in Melbourne, 2021, and Pyron won in straight sets. Faced off in 2021 in Paris, and Paul won in 3. Faced off last year on grass in Den Bosch, and saw Paul win in 3 sets. So a lot of the meetings were pretty dated, as 3 of the 4 happened in 2021 or earlier, and Paul had some success. However, point is you have seen 3 of the 4 meetings not end in straight sets. I see a very close battle here. I'll go with Papiron plus 1.5 sets here. I think that once again, he's healthier. He has not dropped any sets. Paul just played a 4-hour epic against Khachanov. And I said before, you've seen a lot of competitive battles between them. So I see a couple ways to get there. If he ends up winning outright as a dog, I think that there's some value potentially there. But I do think Paul, with his overall, I'd say, consistency, can still extract errors from Papyron. The match will be won or lost in Papyron's racket because he goes for so much power and so much, I'd say, just so many winners on each point that you could argue that Papyron can easily win the match if he hits the spots and lose it by just punting shots all over the court. So I do think there's a path for Paul to definitely win. Would I take him at this price? No. I think that the injury is still important. And assuming that Papyron can actually close out some breakers, maybe he'll be able to actually win this one in 4. But I do think the value is picking worst case scenario, another Paul marathon. We're looking at Paul maybe winning in 5 again. But either way, that does imply Papyron winning 2 sets minimum. And that's minus 150. I like it. I'll fade the injury guy once again. The path was there for Khachanov. He fumbled away the 3rd set breaker, and then he couldn't make it back in the 5th. So either way, point is I think that there's some value on Papyron, but I'll go with the safer option. Give me Papyron plus 1.5 sets, at minus 150 as my main thought for that one. Makes sense also because over 3.5 sets is minus 240. So you're kind of automatically expecting each guy to win a set. And with that being the case, I do think there's some value picking Papyron to win one more set on top of that at a pretty affordable price of minus 150. I'll take that as my choice for that matchup. Moving on to the next match. We're going to look at the matchup between Shelton and Alcaraz. And Alcaraz has been winning. Has not been very good, though. At least based on dominance, he has dropped a set in 2 straight matches, dropped a set to Morozin, and dropped a set to De Zoomer. As for Shelton, he's had a pretty interesting road. Had a 5-set marathon against Sonego in the first round, then had a walkover in the second round against Gaston, then beat Gigante in the 3rd round. So he's beaten 2 Italians, and one was a qualifier that nobody thought would get that far. So definitely a favorable draw for Shelton. As for Alcaraz, though, he's played nobody. Beat Zeppieri, beat Morozin, and beat De Zoomer. So once again, I know Morozin and De Zoomer can be somewhat tricky on clay, but nobody substantial in Alcaraz's path, and he's still dropped a set in 2 straight matches. Alcaraz, though, is minus 2,000. You have Shelton at plus 1,000, give or take. You have minus 7.5 games for Alcaraz, plus 7.5 for Shelton. The over-unders at around 31.5. For the set spread, you have Alcaraz in straight sets at minus 175. Shelton to win ace sets plus 136. And the over-under for sets, the over 3.5 sets is plus 145. Now, the head-to-head history has been lopsided. Faced off 2 times, and you saw Alcaraz win both. Those were on hard courts. Face off last year in the Laver Cup, Alcaraz won 6-4, 6-4. Face off in Toronto, 2023, Alcaraz did win 6-3, 7-6. So we've seen a competitive set or so. The point is Alcaraz has been winning every set between them. So the question is, do I think that Shelton will be able to win a set? Maybe. I'll put it that way. I do think Alcaraz has left the door open for other players to sneak in and steal a set. Alcaraz is going to win. I'm not telling you that Shelton is a dog that has some value. I don't see it. I'd argue the Alcaraz team total over 19 at minus 125 has some interest. If you win in straight sets and you get a breaker out of it, you get a push minimum, and there's a chance it goes 4. So that is a possibility too. I don't mind the Alcaraz team total over. It's tough to find value when you have a guy minus 2,000 as a favorite. But I think Shelton can find ways to potentially, once again, make one set extremely competitive and to maybe even win it. And I do think that Shelton will eventually lose, but I think that Alcaraz has not been playing great tennis so far in the event. He's been winning, which is enough for him. But I can see Shelton making one set competitive minimum, maybe stealing one like De Zoomer and Morozin did. Give me the team total over for Alcaraz at 19 and give me the potential, I don't want to say the over 3.5 sets at plus 143. But I can understand the argument for it. I'm not going to take that, though. Just give me the Alcaraz team total over instead at 19 flat at minus 125. Moving on to the matchup between Tiafoe and Altmaier. So this one, Tiafoe's decent favorite. He's about minus 185. You have Altmaier plus 160. For the spread, minus 3.5 for minus 3.5 for Tiafoe, plus 3.5 for Altmaier. The over-unders at 38.5 games. For the set spread, you have Tiafoe minus 1.5 sets at a minus 105. You have Altmaier plus 1.5 sets at minus 125. The over 3.5 sets is a plus 170. So, faced off in the past, and you actually saw Tiafoe beat him on clay in 2023 as he won in Rome in 3 sets. Faced off in the Australian Open as well, and Tiafoe beat him in 2023 in 4 sets. So both meetings did not end in straight sets. Tiafoe has been really, really good beating Busta and beating Korda in straight sets. Also beats Fulins, who has not dropped a set yet in the entire event. Korda, though, is in pretty good form, and we know Busta is not as good as he used to be, but can still be tricky on clay. So a nice overall sweep there for Tiafoe in those 3 matches. Altmaier, though, has been winning, but he has been dropping sets. He has won each of the first 3 matches in the French Open in 4, so he has dropped at least 1 set, but he's been able to win. Had a pretty decent draw. He did beat Fritz in the first round. Good win for him. Kapriva is a pretty solid challenger clay guy. Did beat him in 4, and then beat Medjedovic, who's also a pretty solid challenger guy, who's tried to make the jump to the ATP. He's made the ATP final, I think, at least once. I know he lost to Shapo at the end of last year. I don't remember if he made it again. I think he did, and he lost in a final again this year. So he's definitely a guy who's been working on his game, who won the next gen title, I think it was a year or 2 ago. So based on that, Altmaier's had, in my opinion, a tougher path than Tiafoe. But I do think that you're looking at Tiafoe, who should be favored in this matchup. Now, do I think he's going to win? At minus 185, I don't really want to pay to find out. I think there are a couple other ways to go about it. I think both guys will win at least 1 set. So if you like Tiafoe to win, maybe Tiafoe and both players win a set to cut in on that juice, you can get plus money with that venture. And for the actual, once again, pricing on that, if you want to go for the both players who want to set in Tiafoe to win, you can find that available at around, that's actually minus 102, which I don't mind. You're cutting in on minus 185 or so, which makes some sense. Do I think Altmaier is dead to rights in this matchup? No. I think he can win. I think Altmaier's a solid clay player. He beat Sinner in this event a couple years ago, and he's been solid so far in this event. He also made a pretty good run in Monte Carlo before losing to Alcaraz. So he's a solid clay player. Tiafoe, though, is playing very well. I do think you're looking at a spot where Tiafoe, I think, is a worthy favorite. But if Altmaier found a way to win in 4 or 5, I would not be shocked. Starfall's mentioning it could be an upset in the making. I can agree with you on that. I think the pricing makes sense just based on the form Tiafoe's in, not dropping a set yet. But I do think that Altmaier is definitely live to win this, and I think that he can pull it off. Give me the over in this one. If you want me to go extra bold on this matchup, give me the over 4.5 sets in this matchup at plus 230. I see a marathon. I think it might go 5, and I do think eventually it's going to result in which player does not blink first to win the matchup. Give me a coin flip, though. Give me the match to go 5 at plus 230 as my thought for that one. I see Sashi joining in, talking about how Ben does not play smart enough tennis to take advantage of Alcaraz's dumb moments. I think you're definitely right. I think Shelton's shot selection can be problematic, but I'm hoping that the Alcaraz dumb moments will be enough to force a breaker, or maybe even allowing Shelton to steal a set. That goes back to the team total, where maybe Alcaraz can still win the set, despite mentally checking out for about 3-4 games. But that's why I'm going with the team total, because I don't trust Alcaraz enough to win in straight sets at minus 175 when he's been zoning out of matches for 20 minutes. And I think that can leave the door open for his opponent to potentially steal a set. So once again, I think it goes back to what I said before about the Alcaraz team total over for that one. Moving on to the next matchup, going to look at Musetti against Rune. This might be the matchup of the round. It's definitely a very good one. For this one, you have a pretty close line. I mean, Musetti's minus 195. Rune's plus 170. For the spread, I see minus 3.5 for Musetti, plus 3.5 for Rune. The over-under is at 38.5. For the set spread, you have Musetti minus 1.5 sets at plus 105. You have Rune plus 1.5 sets at minus 135, And you also have the, once again, over 3.5 sets at minus 225. So you're expecting at least 4 sets between them. And then they faced off twice in the past. None of them were on clay. Faced off in Indian Wells last year. Rune won in straight sets. Faced off in London 2 years ago. Rune did win in straight sets. So both meetings Rune did win in straight sets, but none of them were on clay, which is Musetti's favorite surface. Now, Rune is a good clay player as well, but he has not been that dominant in the run here, as he lost a set to Agut, did beat Nava in straight sets, which was a pretty favorable draw, I'll put it that way. And then he ended up beating Hallis in 5, so a nice win there. But still, point is, if Hallis can take him 5, I think that Musetti can definitely beat him. Musetti's dropped 1 set so far, lost a set to Navone. I think that makes sense. I did pick Navone to win a set in that one, so I'm not surprised. But he beat Golan and beat Hanfman. Musetti, though, is really, really good, and I do think that he's the better player on clay between the two of them. Rune, though, is always going to be a marathon guy. He punts sets left and right and tries to outlast his opponents in about 4 hours trying to win. Problem is, Musetti is so good from the baseline that I just don't see how Rune is going to outlast Musetti if it goes distance, which it probably should. I like Musetti to win. I think he'll end up winning probably in 4 or 5. Maybe goes the distance, but we know Rune over the years has some conditioning concerns. He got past the opponent there in the last round against Hallis. I don't think he'll be as lucky in this one. And the fact that he played a long match against Hallis in the last round, I think can cause potential problems for him in this one. If you see the time of the match kind of creep up there in the 3.5 hour, 4 hour range. I'm going Musetti to win the matchup. However, I will go with something a bit different. I will go with Musetti to win the match and both players to win a set. Like the value there. That's available at around plus 140. Once again, cutting in on the massive price there at about minus 190, give or take. If I can turn that into plus 144, I think I'm going to have to do it. So I'll go with that. I find it kind of interesting, though, that Tiafoe is a pretty similar price as he's around a minus 190 favorite. But him to win and Altmaier to also win a set is minus 102, and this is plus 144. I find that kind of weird, but I like the value, so I'll go with that as my main choice for this one. Moving on to the next matchup. Going to go to the matchups taking place on Monday. So for this one, I'll go and look at the matchup between Bublik and Draper. Draper, though, is a massive favorite. To no surprise, he's about minus 1,000. Bublik is plus 650. The over-under is at 32.5. Now, for the head-to-head history, Draper has beaten him each of the last 2 meetings, but none of them were on clay. Beat him in Adelaide last year, 7-6-6-4. Beat him on grass, 7-6-7-6 in London, and he actually lost to Bublik in 2019 in London. So once again, that was a long time ago, but they faced off one time since 2022, and you saw Draper winning straight sets on hard court. Now, Bublik has been quite good. Did end up winning in straight sets against Duckworth, beat Dimenauer in 5, and ended up beating Rocha in straight sets. Supposed to be Mensik. Got a very nice deal out of it because Mensik choked away a 2-set lead as a minus 2,000 favorite. So Bublik got a qualifier in the 3rd round, and he dominated. As for Draper, he has been amazing. Beat Bellucci in the 1st round, did drop the 1st set. Beat Monfils in the 2nd round, did drop the 2nd set. Should have dropped the 4th set too. Monfils ran out of gas. He was up 5-2 in that 4th set before losing the final 5 games. And then he killed Fonseca, only dropping 8 games in the 3rd round. So the question is, based on the pricing, do I think Bublik can at least win a set? I think the answer is yes. I'm not saying that he's going to, but I do think for his serve, he definitely can find a way to maybe steal a breaker, for example, and to find a way to win it. For the value, though, I don't really see any value on Draper. It would either be straight sets for Draper or Bublik to win a set. That's all you're looking at for the sake of this matchup. Now, I think for the sake of this one, though, I'll go with the over 3.5 sets at even money. I'll give Bublik the benefit of the doubt. We've seen Draper drop some sets. Yes, he was amazing against Fonseca, but I do think Draper has some momentary lapses, and I think that Bublik's serve can be very dangerous to zone out on, and I think that Draper's serve can be had a couple of times by Bublik. Give me Bublik to win a set. I'll pick Draper in 4, but give me the over 3.5 sets at even money as my main thought for that one. Moving on to the next matchup. You have Zverev against Griekspoor. A lot of history in the head-to-head. You're looking at Zverev, who's currently up 5-2 in the head-to-head, 7-2 in the head-to-head. But we saw Griekspoor and Zverev a couple of marathons this year, faced off in Munich on clay, and you ended up seeing Zverev win in 3. Faced off in Indian Wells this year as well, and Griekspoor did win in 3. Faced off in the French Open, last year, and Griekspoor choked away a golden opportunity. He was up a double break in the 5th set, blew it, and then Zverev eventually did come back, won a super breaker, and then eventually did win every match except the final. So that was definitely the scare that Zverev had early before making it all the way to the final against Alcaraz. So point is, we've seen a bunch of competitive matchups, and the question is, will Zverev look sharp again here in Roland Garros? I think the answer is going to be yes. Look at the actual pricing of 4 of these guys. Zverev, of course, a massive favorite. He's about minus 770. You have Griekspoor plus 540. For the spread, minus 5.5 for Zverev. You have plus 5.5 for Griekspoor, and the over-unders at 35.5 games. And for the path so far, Griekspoor has been looking fine, not amazing. He has dropped at least 1 set in every round. He ended up beating Giron in 4, beat Diallo in 4. Supposed to be Cerundolo, got on his draw out of it, and then faced off against Quinn. So Griekspoor's capitalized on his relatively weak draw, but he has been dropping sets, and I do think that Zverev, of course, is a massive step of competition, but Griekspoor has given Zverev some problems in the past, as you've seen a bunch of marathons and a bunch of tiebreaks. So maybe we'll see that happen again here in this one. But for Zverev's path, he's been good. Beat Tien in straight sets, beat De Jong in 4, and beat Caboli in straight sets. Only dropped 3 games combined in the first and third sets. So Zverev has been solid in the event. Griekspoor has been surviving against pretty weak competition, and I do think Griekspoor is going to struggle. Now, the counterpoint is Zverev is still a head case who can easily punt the set in a breaker, or maybe he ends up double faulting away a break point. Who knows? I think Zverev wins, obviously, at minus 700. The question is, do I see much value on picking Griekspoor to win a set, or do I think that you're looking at Zverev who should coast? I think for this one, I will give Griekspoor the benefit of the doubt. We've seen him play well against Zverev in the past. The over 3.5 sets is minus 120. I can get behind that. If you want to go for Zverev to win and both players to win a set, you can find that available at around a plus 136. I like the price on that. I think that you're looking at a spot where Zverev wins. I'll give Griekspoor one set. I'll put it this way, though. If Zverev wins in straight sets, I would not be as surprised as most people. But I do think Griekspoor, who has been looking pretty up and down in most of these matchups, has seemed to always bring his A game against Zverev, as Cayetano's mentioning. I think he'll win at least a set. I think Zverev wins, though. Give me Zverev to win the match and both players to win a set at plus 136 as a main thought for that one. Moving on to Djokovic against Norrie. Massive favorite here. Joker's minus 900. Norrie's plus 550. Rematch of Geneva in the semis, as Joker did win in 3, and you ended up seeing him really look sharp at the end of that Geneva run, and then ended up carrying it over into the French Open. Beat McDonald, beat Moutet, and beat Misolic all in straight sets. As for Norrie, had a marathon against Medvedev where he was down 5-2, or it was 5-3. 5-3 in the 5th set, came back and he won. Ended up beating Gomez in straight sets and beat Fernley in straight sets. So not the toughest competition over the last 2 rounds for Norrie. Not his problem, though. Beat Medvedev, all that matters. But you're looking at Joker, who has been incredible against Norrie in the past. He's never lost to Norrie. He's only dropped 2 sets against Norrie in their meetings. However, one of them was, of course, about a week and a half ago. But you're looking at the meetings, and Joker is currently 5-0. He's only dropped a set twice in those 5 meetings, and one of them was on clay last week or so. So you're looking at Joker, who's a massive favorite. Question is, will Norrie win a set? I'm going to say no. I think Joker dominates here. I think that Joker kind of fumbled away that second set. He had chances against Norrie, and he ended up fumbling it en route to winning in 3. But Joker, for reference, did have a, looking at the actual numbers here. He actually got broken pretty early on in that second set, so it seemed like he kind of zoned out for a little bit. Had an opportunity, though, in the tiebreak anyway. So he got broken early, then broke back while Norrie was serving out for the set, and then he did have a match point and did not convert. So the point is, Joker was 1 point away from another straight set win against Norrie, and I see that happening again here. The issue is with the court speeds. Norrie is just not going to serve well enough, in my opinion, for Joker to just be, I'd say, on the back foot in the return game. Geneva did play pretty fast, which is why we saw Hurkacz make a deep run to the final, and why he was basically 1 hold away from making the title run that nobody expected. The courts here are slower, and I do think it's going to work to Joker's advantage. Give me Joker in a competitive straight set win. Think it might end up going to a breaker in there somewhere. I see 1 competitive set minimum, but I think Joker will do better on the clutch points, and I think he'll win this one in straight sets. So I'll go with, once again, Djokovic in straight sets for a main thought on that one. Moving on to the next matchup we're going to talk about, you have the last match of the show. You're going to have Sinner against Rublev, which is a massive line. Sinner, off of the dominant performance against Leheshka, is minus 2,000. I see minus 3,000 in some spots. Rublev, though, is plus 1,200 off of the bye because fees ended up withdrawing from the event. Sinner, though, is minus 8.5. Rublev is plus 8.5. The over-under is at 30.5. Now, they faced off a couple of times before, and Rublev has been competitive in these matchups. Now, Sinner has won, just going through the numbers here, he's won 4 of the last 5, but I'll point out that each of the last 2 meetings did not end in straight sets, and they faced off in the Australian Open last year, and Rublev had multiple chances to actually win a set, fumbled them all, and Sinner eventually did win in straight sets. But there was a set for the tanking for Rublev in that one as well, and he did not convert. Faced off a couple of times, though, on clay. Faced off in the French Open 2022. Sinner did get injured and had to quit. Faced off Monte Carlo 2022, and Sinner did win in 3. Barcelona 2021, and Sinner won in straight sets. So look at the path of both players. Sinner has been amazing. Beat Rinderknech, beat Gasquet, and beat Lehechka, all in straight sets. Rublev had a 4-setter against Lloyd Harris, beat Walton in 2 breakers and a 6-1, and then had a walkover in the 3rd round. The question is, how the hell do you bet this? Because Sinner's minus 3,000, and you got to either pick Rublev to keep it close, which means you're fading what's probably the number 1 player in the world, or you're backing Sinner to look great again against the guy who's been pretty good against him, at least making it competitive in the past. I think Sinner wins in straight sets. The question is, do I think you're looking at a spot where Rublev can win a set or maybe force a breaker? I don't know, to be honest. I think Sinner's too good. Rublev really did not look great in the first 2 rounds. I know Walton ended up beating Marter in the first round in 5 sets. He's still not a clay guy at all, and Rublev had 2 separate tiebreaks against him. I have not been too impressed by Rublev's form so far in this event. I think Sinner kills him. I think he wins comfortably. 6 threes, maybe, throughout. Like, I see a pretty lopsided scoreline. I might consider the under. Like, I don't really know here. I see Sashi mentioning that the last time Sinner dominated somebody, he struggled against Alcaraz. Then again, it's Alcaraz. Like, I feel like Alcaraz is the one guy that actually beat him. And you're looking at a spot where Rublev, I just don't think is reliable enough. I feel like if Sinner is able to play nearly as well as he did today, he's able to showcase the consistency on both wings. The serve is good, hits all his spots. Rublev might have a mental breakdown. I just feel like Rublev, if he ends up losing, despite playing well, is going a short circuit and might end up punting a set. I can see that. I think Rublev ends up imploding. The problem is, where's the value? I guess it's on the under at 30.5 games. I guess. There's really not much to go with because Sinner's such a big favorite, so you got to get creative with it. I'll go with the under, I guess. I'll trust in Sinner, who's been an absolute monster since coming back from injury. He's dropped 1 match to Alcaraz, and no shame in that. Been great in the event so far. You can find the Sinner straight sets, by the way, available at minus 175, which is too expensive to me. Give me the under at 30.5, and give me hopefully no breakers, no anything like that, and Sinner just coasts again. But give me Sinner winning, probably with the under, as the main thoughts for that one. Anyway, time to move on into the lock and dog picks for the show. If we're going to do that, the reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is pulling it up right now. Let's see if we changed the sponsors. We did not. It's Rhythm, because our job at SGPN is to help you find the best picks, and we've got a new tool to help you do that because you've heard us talk about Rhythm before. They just dropped a new feature called Power Trends. They are AI-detected patterns where Rhythm models have consistently won, and they give you high ROI. And a reminder, you can also use the Power Trends because they're updated every day. Exclusive to Rhythm, no touts, no noise, just clean data-backed bets. Download the Rhythm app. Check out the Power Trends and start betting smarter. You know that we will be doing so. And a reminder, you can also try to free for a week by using the 7-day free trial. Go to sportscamp.com/RATHMM. We're also brought to you by Circle Ultimate Fantasy Ball Giveaway, because Circle Resort and Casino, Las Vegas, giving away the ultimate fantasy ball experience for a 12-person league in Vegas to draft their teams and to be treated like VIPs with their stay. We're going to get a 2-night stay at Circle Resort for the entire league. Hold your draft at Cabana. Stay to swim with a 5K food and beverage credit. Limo transportation as well, to from the airport. But there's much more in the package as well. Contest from May 5th to June 30th. When you sign up for your entry into the contest, make sure to go to sportscamp.com/circa. That's sportscamp.com/CIRCA. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, because MyBookie is placed on every sport. They have the playoffs, they have the NHL playoffs, they have baseball as well, they have UFC, they have tennis, you name it. They're available in a ton of locations as well. Use crypto. But the payout is deposit when you sign up, though, for your new account. Use the promo code SGPN to get a $100 match up to $1K. Terms and conditions with MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the round of 16 in the French Open. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Now, the lock actually was pretty tricky because I did find something, but I do want to consider pivoting, actually, because I found something I might like a bit more. Just want to quickly see what the price is for this. It's a good price. You know what? I think I'm going to pivot, actually. I think I'm going to do it. Initially, my lock was going to be Griekspoor and Zverev tiebreak at minus 127. But you know what? I'm not feeling it that much. I think Griekspoor's been underwhelming so far in the event. I think he might win a set, But Greek Sport has not been going to as many breakers as I was kind of hoping for in the event so far. At least I think that Greek Sport can be had pretty easily, at least based on his form here in this event. I think I'm going to pass on that, actually. I thought about it. The head-to-head supports it, so if you want to take that on your own, you can. But I don't know. Greek Sport just has not looked that great so far in the event. And I do think that Zverev might actually beat him, or you might see a couple of straightforward sets. So I'm going to pivot instead. Instead, I'm going to go with Papiron plus 1.5 sets at minus 143. And I think that's a good price in general. It's a last-second pivot. Hopefully, it works out to our benefit. But I do think it's a great price when you look at the head-to-head history, because you've had a bunch of competitive meetings, as you've seen the head-to-head history feature Paul winning, but they've been going distance. They faced off 4 times. 3 of the 4 did not end in straight sets. So I do like the fact that 3 of the 4 head-to-head meetings did not end in straight sets, which tells me that you might see Papiron have some success in this matchup. So I do like that, I'd say, component of the actual breakdown, and I think that could definitely be a reason why I think Papiron could win the match outright, or maybe even lose in 5. But I think you're looking at a spot where the head-to-head history does support the idea that you're looking at what could be a marathon, and I do think that can definitely be possible. But I think you're looking at, once again, Paul has been injured. He's gone to 5 sets, back-to-back rounds. The abdomen issue caught up to him in the later stages of that 4th, 5th set there against Kashanov. He held on to win. But the fact is, Paul's been dropping sets left and right. He's dropped at least 1 set in every single match here. Papiron, though, has been coasting. He's won every match in straight sets. And I do think that you're looking at the rest advantage, the fitness advantage. There is some boxes that are checked in favor of Papiron. And Paul might end up, once again, winning a marathon. I see it being very close. The over 3.5 sets was around, what was it, like minus 240, I think. So you're looking at what should be at least 4 sets. Give me Papiron to win at least 2 sets here at minus 143 as my lock. I am going to pivot. I thought about going for the breaker again was Zverev and Greek Sport. But minus 127 for a breaker on clay is just not a good enough price for me. So I'll pass on that instead. Give me Papiron to beat up on, or at least to perform well against an injured opponent. Give me the plus 1.5 sets to minus 143 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to the matchup between Musetti and Rune. Give me Musetti to win, and both players to win a set at plus 144. Musetti's minus 205 on the money line, and Rune is minus 370 to win a set. It's expected to go at least 4. I find it weird, once again, the Tiafoe to beat Altmaier at about the same price, and it to go 4 or 5 sets is minus 102. But for Musetti, it's plus 144. I think it's a great price. You're looking at Rune, who's been dropping sets constantly. He's lost at least 1 set in 5 of the last 6 matches, and Musetti has been looking very sharp on clay all year. Former bronze medal winner on these exact courts in the French Open. If you win a bronze medal in Paris and the Olympics, I know you're definitely better than your opponent, unless you're against Alcaraz, for example, on the courts here. I think Rune will win a set, kind of like what Navone did. I think Musetti eventually wears him down, and Rune, I think fitness-wise, will start to deteriorate as the match goes along. But I like the value, taking a minus 205 favorite and turning him into plus 144. I'll go with that as my dog for the show. So once again, the plays here for the lock and dog. The lock's going to be in Papiron as a last-second audible, plus 1.5 sets at minus 143 against Paul. For the dog, give me Musetti to win, and both players win a set at plus 144. Let's go wrap it up for the show. We're back once again for the breakdown of the quarterfinals on the men's side in about a day or two. Till next time, I'm on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Good luck to all of you and all of your bets.